So how did it come to pass that we found a sense of deep connection with the story of Marie Curie? Why did the quest to prove the existence and understand the power of radium seem like a good idea for a musical, especially given the fact that we had no advanced understanding of physics and chemistry, subjects for which Marie Curie won the Nobel Prizes?
The reason behind our initial and overwhelming connection to the story was because we saw a great deal of overlap between the worlds of science and art. We understood what it's like to be artists. And perhaps surprisingly, this also gave us the tools to understand what it's like to be scientists. In both worlds, you start with just a notion, perhaps the vaguest of instincts or hopes or questions. But through research and planning, experimentation and analysis, luck and relentlessness, you can create the potential for discovery. You begin with a blank page, and you end with results to share with the world.
And of course, Marie Curie didn't discover radium alone. She was a collaborator with her husband, Pierre. Marie was the engine that propelled them forward, and Pierre was that wheel that kept the car on the road and not in the ravine. We know exactly what that's like.
Because we had a deep connection to the material, thanks to the overlapping paths of science and art, and because we understood the nuances and the challenges and the glories of collaboration, we were confident enough to begin. There would be a lot to learn about the hard sciences, about the politics of 19th century Warsaw, about the cultural makeup of the Belle Epoque in Paris. We would learn about the laboratory equipment that Pierre Curie invented. We would track the rejected applications for funding and the harrowing research processes that the Curies embarked on.
And we couldn't help but notice the similarities between art and science there as well.
But all of our research into every detail of the Curies' lives and work was designed to answer two questions. How did it happen that a Polish immigrant named Mania Skłodowska arrived in France, reinvented herself, fell in love, and changed the world? And what were the consequences of that change for Marie and for the world at large? By the time we were able to answer those questions, we had our show.
So as Eric began researching the world of the Curies, I began experimenting with the way that world might sound, how the time, the place, and emotion of the story could be expressed through music. It's not an accident or a coincidence that we're using music to tell the story of radium's discovery. Both music and radioactivity are forms of energy that carry immense power. They're both invisible, but their presence is undeniable. They both have the capacity to deliver beauty or terror. So one of the first musical challenges of our process was to express how radium sounded. So I'm going to play for you a little clip from the very opening of our show. This is a bit from the prologue to Radioactive. And it goes on like that and expands. So I knew I wanted it to sound like science, like the unknown, like possibility, like danger, like light waves. But how do you do that, right? Well, I can't do that unless I can root all of that into the story we are telling. So we're going to get into the music weeds here, but for my non-music nerds, it's going to be all right. So I started playing with two major triads, and a triad is simply a chord made of three separate notes that all sound together, making a new sound unto itself. So already here with this triad, we have a very apt metaphor for our show. Three separate notes, three subject objects, Marie, Pierre, and radium, sounding together, making an altogether new sound. So now these two triads, D major specifically, and B major, they each share a note, F sharp. So I started playing with oscillating between these two worlds, D major and B major, keeping that F sharp constant. So we have these two relationships, F sharp and D, Perhaps that's Marie and radium, oscillating, orbiting each other, never together, ever chasing after each other. And F sharp, still Marie, and now D sharp, Pierre. Marie and Pierre, oscillating, chasing, never together. Hello, microphone. Except we hear their separate sounds blur together as one. And these oscillations even sound and look on the score like light waves. So, there's that. So these oscillating triad pairs rotate around each other faster and faster, like the inner workings of an atom, until they musically collide and climax into the next section. And so once I cracked the code of this opening and what radium, what science, what the mystery of these relationships, these two different yet similar chasing each other, finding each other, creating a new thing relationships sounded like, I knew I could write the rest of this score. And these oscillating triads found their way into nearly every other song in the show in different disguises.